Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 13th episode of the Stray Dog Footy podcast. Yes, indeed, the Baker's Dozen episode of this American podcast on Australian rules football. As always, thank you so much for listening and sharing this little thing I'm doing. So, let's get right into the round 6 action. First, on Thursday Night Footy, we had the Cats and Lions at the SCG. Gary Rohan just came out onto his old stomping ground like the locker room was on fire. An absolute wrecking ball out there. Personally, I think his first reported offense was a bit soft, but then again, I don't get umpire wages. Ablett kicked another goal from outside 50 early on. A thing of beauty. But that dribble kick goal along the boundary line by Brisbane's Lachie Neale in the second term was uncanny good. Possibly goal of the year, if you ask me. Like picking up a bucket while standing in it, indeed. A very intense and enjoyable first half, with Brisbane being up by 10 points at halftime. The second half was a completely different story. The Cats put on a clinic in the third quarter. The Lions bounced back somewhat in the fourth, but their kicking accuracy all day, in fact all season, let them down, and Geelong won the match by a total score of 73-46. Next, on Friday Night Footy, we had Collingwood and Hawthorn. Now, as I've said before, I really don't consider myself an expert in Aussie rules. Just a huge fan. But even I could tell, before the first goal was kicked, that the Pies would demolish the Hawks. The pressure they put on the boys in gold and brown was immense. The only question was, how long could they keep it up? The answer is, long enough, and then some. The Maggies won by a score of 59-27, the lowest score ever recorded by Hawthorn under Clocker's reigns. In fact, it was the club's lowest score since 1964. The following day, Super Saturday, started off with the Dockers and Saints. This turned out to be one of the most exciting games of the round. Down by 36 points after the first term, and despite several injuries and the occasional kick in the wrong direction, Freo fought back to win by a single goal. Next, we had West Coast taking on Adelaide. The biggest news about this match was not so much the game itself, as the result almost seemed a foregone conclusion, but the controversy surrounding a leaked tweet from Riley O'Brien concerning his upcoming opponent, Nick Natanui, a somewhat insulting plan for how to handle the All-Star Eagles ruckman. O'Brien would later state that he blamed his beat-up old phone with its broken screen for the accidental tweet of his notes. Well, in a great bit of both sportsmanship and showmanship, Nick Nat actually gave O'Brien a brand new Samsung phone, still in the box, when they shook hands after the game, in which the Eagles beat the Crows by 33 points. Don't you just love footy? Then it was time for the Demons and Suns. Matt Rowell's injury has been a looming shadow for the Suns, but a new bright spot for Gold Coast was the debut of Isaac Rankin. Though the Suns lost in an emotional match against Melbourne by 17 points, their future looks bright indeed when Rowell returns. Next, we had Essendon and North Melbourne. After a spirited back-and-forth affair in the first half, the Bombers pulled away in the second and won by a score of 67-53. A huge loss for Essendon, however, is the suspension of Dylan Shield for the next 2 weeks. Then, Sunday started with the power in the Giants. Port Adelaide won by a score of 63-46. Port generated some space under them on the ladder, and the Giants seemed to generate some questions about their midfield. Next, we had Richmond and Sydney in what is possibly the most defensively minded game of the season. In fact, it was one of the lowest scoring matches since the league renamed itself the AFL. It is pretty rare that the coach's post-game comments are more exciting than the match before. Honestly, I haven't seen a group of guys failing to score this badly since my freshman high school mixer. In the end, the Tigers prevailed with a final score of 34-26. Also, perhaps even worse for Swans fans are the injuries sustained by Kennedy, likely to miss 6 weeks, and Heaney, who is probably gone for the season. Finally, saving the best for last, we had the Carlton Blues and my Western Bulldogs. Now, one of my favorite things about the AFL and the VFL before it, is the tradition of the father-son rule. If you are not familiar with the concept, it has to do with the rookie draft. In a nutshell, if a father of a player eligible for the draft has played at least 100 games for a club, then that club can use their draft pick to secure the rookie even if another club selects him or her with a higher bid. Well, there have been many legendary names associated with the Western Bulldogs and the Footscray Bulldogs, as they were known up until the 1996 season. And this week, the Doggies fielded 5, count 'em 5, sons of former Bulldog stars. First off, we have Lockie Hunter, son of Mark Hunter, who played 130 games for Footscray. Then, Mitch Wallace, son of former captain Steve Wally Wallace, who played 261 for Footscray. Also, Zane Cordy, son of Brian Cordy, who played 124 games for the Footscray Bulldogs. In addition, Brian's brothers, Neil and Graham, also played for Footscray. Likewise, Zane Cordy's older brother, Ace, also played for the Western Bulldogs. Then, of course, we have Tom Liberatore, son of Brownlow winner Tony Liberatore, who played 283 games for both the Footscray and Western Bulldogs, and is often regarded as one of the most ferocious tacklers the game has ever seen. Both dad and son are more affectionately known as Libba. And finally, Riley West, son of Hall of Famer Scott West, who played 324 games for both kinds of Bulldogs, during which he also ranked up a record 7 Charles Sutton medals, which is what the club's best and fairest medals are known as. I'm not sure, but this has probably got to be close to a record for the number of father-sons in a single side. So, when I mention the Bulldogs family, I'm not just talking about how welcomed I personally feel by the club and the fans. Family runs deep in the West. We even have our first father-daughter now playing in the AFLW, with Isabella Grant, daughter of Bulldogs legend Chris Grant, joining the squad this past season. And you know what? Speaking of the Lady Doggies, as much as I love watching our AFL team, I find myself really missing women's footy as well. Hopefully, it will all be back on track next season, and I can cheer on the Daughters of the West once more. Unfortunately, all the history didn't help my Bulldogs against a very fired-up Carlton side, who performed better in the rain. And once the rain stopped, it didn't seem to matter much at all. Every time the Doggies would draw close on the scoreboard, and they appeared to dominate much of the midfield game, the Blues would exploit an opening and run through and goal. Then, in the last half of the fourth quarter, it all fell apart completely, and the Blues ended up more than doubling the Doggies' tally. Still, many people said it was the most entertaining game of the round. Gosh, I don't know about that. I will say the inconsistency and just what is holding the ball and what is no prior opportunity from day to day, match to match, is extremely frustrating to me. I can only imagine what it is like for the players, coaches, and even the umpires themselves. Okay, now let's not waste any more time and take a look ahead at Round 7. First up, on Thursday Night Footy, we have Geelong and Collingwood, a much anticipated match, especially considering both of their performances in the previous round. This might be the hardest pick of the round for me, and I have waffled back and forth many times already. Hopefully, I'll make the right call by Thursday morning. If you have ESPN3, you can catch this here in the States. Next, on Australian primetime Friday Night Footy, we have the Essendon Bombers and my Western Bulldogs. Prime time down under, of course, means 5:30 a.m. here in the eastern United States, and you can catch the action on Fox Sports 1. I'm not going to lie. The fact that Dylan Shields' appeal was denied is not something I will lose any sleep over. Beyond getting up early for the game, of course. Then, Super Saturday starts with GWS and Brisbane. I'm sure the Lions are looking to be back on the prowl after the disappointing second half last week, and the Giants must be smarting as well. Should be a ripper of a game. On American TV, it will be shown on Fox Sports 2. Next up is the Swans and Suns. My two favorite Sydney players went down last game, and the Suns seem to have risen again under the stellar debut of Isaac Rankin. Unfortunately, this game is not to be shown in the United States. If you don't want to miss games like this, you should totally get the WatchAFL.com app, or better yet, get it through an international membership from your favorite club. Or, if you are just discovering this game, like so many other Americans are right now, and you haven't picked a favorite team yet, you can get a similar discount by going through the United States Australian Football League. I will provide a link to where I get mine, and if you listen to this podcast at all before, you probably know where that is already. To wrap up Saturday's action, we have the Tigers and Kangaroos. These two teams seem to be going in opposite directions of late, and I'm sure Coach Shaw of North Melbourne has a plan to change that. I just hope it doesn't involve 75,000 actual kangaroos. You can watch the match here in the States on ESPN2. Live marsupials or not, it has to be more exciting than whatever else ESPN is showing these days. To start off Sunday, we have Carlton and Port Adelaide. The Blues have been playing some surprisingly good footy this season, and though the Power sit alone atop the ladder, their victory is by no means a certainty here. Can't wait to see this one. Also can't believe I'm saying that about a Carlton game. Strange times indeed. It shows here in the States on Fox Sports 2. Next, we have the Hawks and the Demons. The D's are coming off an emotional victory last week, and Hawthorn seem to be imploding. Yet, this is another tough one for me to pick. It shows here on Fox Sports 1. Then, Sunday's last match features the Western Derby, as it is called whenever the Fremantle Dockers meet the West Coast Eagles. I think the 30,000 fans allowed into Optus Stadium are in for a treat here. Almost everyone is picking the Eagles, it seems, but Freo may just have a few surprises up their sleeveless purple Guernseys. My fellow Americans can see it live on Fox Sports 1, or on the DVR, of course. And finally, the last match of the round, on Monday Night Footy, we have the Crows and Saints. Is this the week Adelaide gets to sing their song of victory after the game? Well, if you have the Watch AFL app, you can find out. Otherwise, you'll be rowing up the septic runoff using your bare hands as oars, since this match is not shown on American TV. Well, I think that should just about do it for today. As always, I thank you so very much for listening. I would be so grateful if you would be kind enough to share a link to this podcast with your friends and family. After all, it's about sharing and growing this amazing sport of Aussie rules that we all love. And get out there on social media. I have met so many new fans of the AFL since the season restarted, both in America and Australia, and even a few other places in the world. It is a lot of fun engaging people who love the same thing. And I think many new fans are somewhat overwhelmed by the welcome they are receiving. And also, to some extent, the amount of suggestions they get to follow one particular team or another. I know I am definitely guilty of flying the red, white, and blue banner all over the internet. But no, it comes from a place of love. And sharing, explaining, and learning about this great game is why I started the Stray Dog Footy podcast in the first place. It can be found on your favorite podcast player or at straydogfooty.podbean.com. And I would love to hear what you think. Please let me know what you like or dislike and what else you would like me to cover on future episodes. You can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at @straydogfooty and by email at straydogfooty@yahoo.com. Also, I just wanted to mention that I am not endorsed by or officially affiliated with either the Australian Football League or the Western Bulldogs, beyond being a huge fan and a supporter. Likewise, I am not endorsed or affiliated with Peg and the Rejected, but I am a fan of their music. I would like to thank them for the use of their song, Red, White, Black, and Blue, which I used a portion of as the intro to this episode, I will also play us out with their entire song and, of course, leave a link in the show notes to their music. Before I go, I just want to send out my best wishes for a speedy recovery for Richmond Tiger Basher Hooley's mother, and in fact, everyone else who is currently hospitalized with COVID-19. This virus is indeed very real. I have seen it in person, affecting both young and old. Anyone who says otherwise is, with the benefit of doubt, at best mistaken. So everyone, take care, be considerate of others, stay safe, stay well, and stay alive. Oh, and one more thing. Go Bulldogs!